I've been in a family where everybody was funny when I was growing up. So once I hit high school, I started doing theater. And once I started doing theater is when I started developing a love for performance. Then eventually got to the point where it came to my junior year of high school. They were doing the talent show, and people had been telling me, "Oh, Hannibal, you'd be so good at stand-up comedy for so long." And I had always watched like Dave Chappelle, who's one of my big inspirations, and I just decided that I would do it. So the first time I ever did comedy was the junior year of my high school at the talent show, and I was terrible. But then I had, and I didn't do it for a while, but once I graduated high school, it was around January of 2014, started going to college, had my own car, started driving around, so I decided to go check this open mic out that my dad's girlfriend was always telling me about. And then I went there 2 times with one of my best friends before I performed. I went there to check it out, do recon, and then I started doing stand-up comedy January of 14 at the Drunken Monkey on Bumby and Colonial. Since then, I really developed a love for it, and personally, once I got into the poetry scene here in Orlando, is when I really started to get this deep love for performance, and then I've stayed consistent since then. I'm doing a lot to build my street cred up in the stand-up comedy scene as well, but the poetry scene out here has been like family to your boy. So that's really how I started getting into the game. For me, a lot of people, it's really difficult, it's very hard, and it can be, but for me, I had a lot of theater under my belt since my freshman year of high school, consistently doing theater, even into college, consistently doing theater, and then I got to the point where I was also doing improv in high school and college, so for my brain, stand-up comedy was something new, because when I did it, like the very first time, my legs were shaking, and I was like, what? I've been on this stage thousands of times while my legs shaking, but it's a whole different ballgame when it's just you on stage. So even then, it took my body and my mind less time to get adapted. So okay, this is like what we're used to. Cool, all right, bam. So I've hit the ground rolling. Not to say that I was like funny out the gate, but my own comfortability on stage. And that's one thing I know that's been a blessing for me. Lots of people take years to build up the self-confidence to even hit the stage. I developed that at a young age. So it was almost like learning how to ride a bike, but like you already like ride a skateboard, you know? So it's like, okay, this is weird, but it's not too foreign, I figured it out. Especially from Dave Chappelle, I love the way he approaches comedy because it's funny. He also has no bad feelings about what he says, but then he's also always talking about serious topics. I feel like it's like the basic answer, but one of his newest specials, he was talking about it was on Netflix, where he discusses the football players kneeling during the national anthem. He also talks about why he got out of the game. And from watching those, like his last 2 specials he put out, really made me go, this man is the person I truly admire about his approach of the art form, what he does with it, his high level of skill with it, and his ability to always keep it real, even when it's realer than people want it to be. Of course, you've got like the Rick James sketch, you've got the Prince sketch. One of my personal favorites was the Player Haters Ball. And then in the episodes, the last season of it, they were talking about skits they never finished or whatever, but they were talking about haters in time. That was hands down the funniest thing to me. Then, let's see, what else? Yeah, Dave Chappelle, of course, you have the signature, which is the skit that was on the very first episode about the blind KKK member. You know, that's a shining example of what I think comedy can do, because that was hilarious, and it not only was a crazy situation, but really on the underline, it makes fun of people who are that selfish or that self-centered or that solipsist where they think, oh, the world revolves around me and my people are the best people. So it was funny, but it also throws a sweet jab at negative ideas out there, at the same time. So those are definitely some of my favorite skits. Of course, there are other ones. Community, probably my favorite sitcom, period, because it was really fun. It made me feel good about starting to get into community college, and then also I felt like I could have fit into that. I felt like I could have fit into that universe, and it was perfectly sculpted. Plus, you had really unique characters. I feel like throughout sitcoms like The Office and Parks and Rec, you always end up with a character who, when the show is really good, it's almost like a character who then defines an archetype of people. Nobody really, as far as I can think of, nobody had a real Dwight character before Dwight on The Office. Now, any character similar to that would live in the shadow of him. In Parks and Rec, you've got Ron Swanson. I can't think of a solid Ron Swanson character before Ron Swanson, and so now he's put the nail on the head. And then Communities has to be Abed, this really cool, well, I know he's not cool, but I like the way they did the character. This nerd who's on the autism spectrum who manages to build up these really cool, fun relationships with people and develop these long-lasting friendships. The originality of his character and the way that Abed looks at stuff makes him one of my favorite characters, and then that show one of my favorite comedy sitcoms, period. I think depending on what you want to call, what someone would look at as a comedy film, because I'm really an action type guy. Action's my thing. So Kingsman was a movie that spoke to me on a hilarious level, because it felt like a movie that I would have written. And it was super funny, super epic, and that's probably got to be one of my favorite comedy movies, especially because I like a good fight scene, and they have plenty of those. Kevin Hart, because he's so big, which means really whether you do well or you don't, it's going to have an impact on your career. And what I've seen in comedy is it's one of the few art forms where nobody cares if you're bad, but everyone cares if you're good. So if you fail 1,000 times at comedy, nobody cares once you get it right, and then you figure out the formula. Then that's when people pay attention to you. So I'd like to go with Kevin Hart. To be slightly more old school, I like to say Chris Rock. I feel like Chris Rock and I could talk about and agree on and come together on some deeper topics regarding comedy and what it's good for and what we can do with it and all that. So I think those are people I'd go on tour with. Yeah. Dave Chappelle for sure, because he could tear into anybody. Chris Rock, I think, could do a pretty solid job. There are comedians here in Orlando that could do an excellent job, but I don't want to put them on the list. In fact, that's cheating. I actually can't think of any others. Maybe Cat Williams. Yeah, probably Cat Williams. And Eddie Griffin. Yeah. Come on, let me get one more. I've almost got this. You know what? Dan Cook. Just to have one white guy make you feel awkward for him. Yeah, those are the 5 people I pick. Pretty much all forms of it. My goal is to become an entertainer. Ultimately, down the line, I want to come to a point to where I can bring my imagination to life. Whether that be movies, TV, film, cartoons, music, composing, and any way that I could bring my imagination to life. So acting's really important to me. I'm doing that as much as I can. Comedy has been something I realize will be my niche, because comedy seems to be able to give you a lot back for the time you put in, whereas theater, you can do a lot of that and the rehearsals will be so long and then you don't get paid. Comedy, you go out one night, you don't get paid, but it's a lot less stressful in that. Film, definitely. I have anthologies of comedic films and TV shows and skit ideas consistently running through my head. Now my goal is to start putting them in the paper and making them happen. So comedy, and not simply comedy, but entertainment as a whole is what my goal is to tackle. I feel like within the next 5 years, I have figured out and properly developed a YouTube presence. So my career my name has started to stretch to other states, even though I might not have to leave yet. Orlando's been good to me. I'm in no hurry to leave. But probably in the next 5 years, I might end up moving to New York or Atlanta, preferably Atlanta, so that I can really get a feel for that city, delve really deep into a city so full of culture, you know? And so, not to say New York don't got no culture, but Atlanta is like the black Mecca. So to be able to live there and build my career there as well would be incredible. So within the next 5 years, that's what I think. But of course, like anybody smart, you know, you aim for the moon and you shoot for the stars, hoping to exceed all of my goals that way. I've developed my own website, which is HannibalC.com. Then I have my professional Instagram, which is Hannibal, Hannibal, Callens, Callens, no spaces. On Instagram, that's where I keep all of my performances coming up. Then I have a Facebook page, which is Hannibal Callens Entertainment, and a YouTube channel, which is my name, Hannibal Callens. To me, I would like for people to laugh at what I said and then go, man, but you know what? I never thought about blank that way. So people laugh and learn something at the same time. It's a goal of mine, you know, because comedy allows us to talk about things we don't normally talk about because we're having a good time. So I think that through utilizing the art form in that way, we can use comedy to improve the culture and quality of life for everybody around the world. Hey everybody, it's your boy Hannibal Callens. Don't forget to check me and our other epic comics out at QtiePie.com. Peace.